My name is Claire Donovan. I'm 34 years old. And the day I almost died in a hospital bed was the same day my mother-in-law decided to take everything I owned. She just didn't know I'd already seen it coming. I met Daniel when we were both 26. He was warm, funny, the kind of man who remembered how you took your coffee without being asked. We got married 3 years later in a small backyard ceremony, just family and close friends. His mother, Vera. Happy tears, she said. I believed her. We bought a house together in Raleigh. Nothing fancy, 3 bedrooms, a yard that needed work, a kitchen that smelled like old paint. I loved it immediately. Daniel and I spent 2 weekends stripping the walls, picking colors, arguing over whether the living room should be gray or green. We landed on a kind of sage that we both called the wrong name until it was done, and then we both agreed it was perfect. Vera came to visit that. She walked through every room with her hands clasped behind her back like she was assessing a property. She didn't say much, but at dinner she mentioned casually that her own house was getting too big for just her. She said it while looking at Daniel, not at me. I filed that away quietly and said nothing. For 5 years things were good. Daniel and I both worked, me in hospital administration, him in commercial insurance. We weren't rich, but we were stable. We had a savings account with a real number in it. We had a plan. What we didn't have was a baby. We'd been trying for 2 years, month after month of nothing. I had started seeing a specialist. The appointments were clinical and exhausting, and I cried in the car after most of them. Daniel always drove. He never once made me feel like it was something wrong with me. Vera had opinions, of course. Have you tried just relaxing? Sometimes when women are too focused on work. Smiled, I said nothing. I had gotten very good at that. The diagnosis came in January, not infertility, something scarier. A mass on my left ovary, suspicious enough that my doctor wanted it out immediately. Surgery was scheduled for the following week. I told Daniel the night we got the call. He sat on the edge of the bed and held both my hands and said we were going to handle it. That's what he always said. We're going to handle it. I called my mother. Daniel called Vera. Oh, those things are almost always benign, she told him. I heard her through the phone from across the room. She'll be fine, these modern women all catastrophize. He didn't argue with her, I noticed that. The surgery went longer than expected. What was supposed to be 2 hours became 5. When I woke up, Daniel was there, and so was my mother, and the surgeon was explaining something about follow-up treatment options. I was in the hospital. On the 3rd day, Vera arrived. She didn't come to see me in the hospital, though. That part I only learned later. She came to our house. While I was recovering in a hospital bed, Vera had called a moving company and arranged for them to clear out the spare bedroom, the room we'd been saving as a nursery, the room with the sage walls, and begin moving her boxes into the garage. When Daniel went home to check on things that evening, he found her directing 2 men. Mom, what are you doing? Moving in, you need help right now. Claire's going to need months of recovery and you can't do this alone. You can't just, we didn't discuss this. I'm your mother, I'm not going to ask permission to help my son. He told me this on the phone that night. I was sitting up in a hospital bed with a catheter still in, running a low fever, and he was telling me his mother had moved herself into our house. He said he'd handle it. I came home to Vera in my kitchen. She had rearranged my cabinets. She had thrown out my spices because she said they were expired. She had replaced my dish soap with a brand she preferred. Small things, deliberate things. The kind of things you do when you want someone to feel like a guest in their own home. Over the following 3 weeks while I recovered, Vera made herself essential to Daniel. She cooked his dinners. She reminded him of appointments. She asked me twice if I'd considered that the stress of my career might have contributed to my health problems. Daniel said she meant well. I asked him when she was leaving. He said he didn't know. That was when something shifted in me, not anger exactly, something quieter. The kind of feeling that makes you start paying attention. I found the folder by accident. I was looking for our homeowner's insurance documents. Vera had reorganized my filing cabinet, and I found a folder I didn't recognize labeled simply property. Inside was a printout of a real estate attorney's business card, stapled to a 2-page document I didn't understand entirely but understood enough. It was a draft quitclaim deed for our house. My name was not on it. Daniel's name was there and Vera's. The draft was dated 6 weeks earlier. I stood in the kitchen holding that folder for a long time, then I put it back exactly where I found it. I went upstairs. I sat on the edge of the bed. I thought about every conversation I'd had with Daniel in the past 2 months. The way he'd been quieter than usual. The way he'd stopped mentioning our savings. Then I thought about the fact that my name was not on the house. We had always meant to add me to the deed. We talked about it early on. But there was always something, taxes, timing, we'd get to it. We never got to it. I thought, I need to find out exactly what I have. And then I thought, I need a lawyer. I called my friend Meg, who was a paralegal. I described what I'd found without telling her the address or the names. She was very quiet for a moment. Claire, is your name on the deed at all? No, it was always supposed to be added, but okay. You need to talk to a family law attorney before. Today, if possible. I told her I had a follow-up oncology appointment that afternoon. After the appointment, please. I went to the oncology appointment. The news was good. The mass had been benign, follow-up treatment minimal. I cried in the car for 10 minutes out of pure relief. Then I wiped my face and drove to the attorney's office Meg had texted me. The attorney was a woman named Gail Pearson. She had short gray hair and reading glasses on a chain. She listened to everything I said without interrupting. When I was done, she asked 2 questions. Are you still legally married? Yes. Is the deed transfer complete or still in draft? I only saw a draft. She nodded slowly. Then we're not too late, but we need to move quickly. She explained that as a married spouse, even without my name on the deed, I had legal rights to marital property in North Carolina. Quitclaim transfer made without my knowledge or consent, especially to a third party, could be challenged. She said she wanted to pull the current property records immediately. She pulled them while I sat across from her desk. Her expression changed. Mrs. Donovan, the deed was filed 11 days ago. The folder I'd found had been the draft. The real one had already gone through. My husband had transferred our house to his mother while I was recovering from surgery. I walked in the front door. Vera was at the stove. Daniel was at the kitchen table. I set my purse down. I need to talk to you, I said. How was the appointment? Daniel asked. The cancer is clear and I know about the house. Nobody moved for a second, then Vera turned from the stove. It's a financial restructuring, Claire, for estate purposes. It doesn't affect your daily life. It is my house, Vera. It was Daniel's house. He had every right. And I have every. I will. Daniel stood up. Claire, can we just talk about this privately? We should have talked about it privately before you forged my future. I went upstairs. I called Gail from the bedroom. The next 6 weeks were the worst of my life and the most clarifying. Gail filed for an equitable distribution claim and a legal challenge to the deed transfer. In North Carolina, marital property acquired during a marriage belongs to both spouses regardless. The transfer to Vera, without my knowledge, without any legal separation, was legally vulnerable. Daniel hired his own attorney. His mother was paying for it. I moved into my mother's apartment. I took my medical records, my financial documents, my laptop, and 1 bag of clothes. I left everything else. In discovery, Gail found something neither of us had expected. The real estate attorney who had drafted and filed the deed had represented Vera in a previous. He had a pre-existing relationship with her. He had facilitated the transfer without once advising Daniel to notify his spouse. Gail argued he had provided ethically compromised counsel. Daniel, it turned out, had not fully understood what he was signing. He thought he was protecting the asset from potential medical debt, something Vera had convinced him was a real risk during my illness. He had not understood he was effectively giving his mother the house. He called me. I didn't know it would be. I thought it was temporary. She said it was temporary. Daniel, you transferred our house without telling me while I was in a hospital bed. He didn't have anything to say to that. The case was settled out of court 4 months later. The deed transfer was reversed. Vera's name was removed. My name was added to the title finally after 7 years of marriage. Vera did not accept this quietly. She called my mother. She posted vague. She told Daniel's extended family that I had manipulated a sick woman's son. Daniel filed for divorce 8 weeks after the settlement, not because I asked him to, because I think in the end he was ashamed. And shame, when it has nowhere to go, tends to become blame. He blamed me for involving lawyers, for not handling it quietly, for embarrassing his mother. She was trying to protect me, he said once. From what? From me? He didn't answer. The house sold. As part of the divorce settlement, I received 50% of the equity, which after 7 years in a rising market was more than I expected. I bought a condo. Smaller, but mine. My name on the deed the day I closed. I stood in the empty living room of that condo the first evening with the lights off, and I let myself feel all of it. The grief, the relief, the strange, quiet pride. I had gone into that hospital not knowing I was about to lose my marriage, my home, and the future I thought I'd built. What I found instead was that I was more capable than I had ever let myself believe. Vera lost nothing legally. That's the part that used to keep me up at night. She faced no charges, no public consequence. She is still Daniel's mother and always will be. But she didn't get the house. She didn't get to erase me. And sometimes that has to be enough. The thing nobody tells you about betrayal is that it's rarely dramatic. It's quiet. It's a folder in a filing cabinet. It's a deed at a county courthouse. It's a man who loved you choosing to say nothing because silence was easier than choosing. I am 34 years old. I live alone. I pick my own paint colors now, and I'm not catastrophizing. I'm just finally paying attention.